Fionn, it's not every day that I have opportunity to sit with the real inventor. So the big question is, and I want to kick off our conversation with it, how can we make oceans cleaner?
Well, I think that making oceans cleaner is not a simple answer to one thing we have to do, but a multiple of things we have to do. 3 things. The first thing I believe is that what we need to do is fall in love with the ocean. In order to make a clean ocean, we need everybody to love the ocean and see firsthand the challenges and the issues that are causing it. And only then will they act. The second thing we need to do is play with science, invent, try out any idea we can, share our ideas, and develop them a little bit. And the third thing we can do is give support to any idea, no matter how off the wall, no matter how crazy, and see where it goes. Worst case scenario doesn't work, but best case scenario, maybe we can save the oceans. I think the ultimate way to save the oceans is that we love the oceans, try to protect them, and use every idea we possibly can to actually protect them.
Wow, you are humble, because I was hoping that beginning with this question you will, elaborate more on your device, on your invention.
I can do that too.
Yeah, do this, because I am, I'm really surprised by your answer, because it's so true. And I was really hoping that we could move on to us, the human factor in this technology-dominated world, a little later. But yeah, let's
We can always cut things.
let's talk about your invention for a while. How can we make oceans cleaner with magnets?
Well, my invention basically removes microplastics from water by magnetizing them. That sounds a bit strange, right? Because plastics aren't magnetic, right? Basically, my invention is a liquid that we can add to water that attracts plastics to it. It sticks to the plastics, and then it allows plastics to be collected using magnets. Basically, I found this because I was playing with science and chemistry, and it uses a mixture of plant oil, so like canola oil, and magnetite powder, so just rust powder. And together they make a magnetic matrix, which allows for the magnetization of plastic.
Yeah, every time I hear about magnets and I think of invention, I always think of a certain episode of Breaking Bad. But getting more serious now, at least 10 tons of plastic end up in oceans every year.
Much more.
Much more right now. How big is the plastic pollution crisis right now, and how much worse it will get if we don't get serious right now?
So at the moment, there's about 30 million tons of plastic entering the oceans every year. And I think that is a huge problem, right? Because that plastic is going into our ocean. But a lot of it is still large. But as time goes on, the longer we wait to act, the smaller plastic's going to get. The more difficult it's going to be to take out of the water, but also the more harm it can do. Currently, every week we drink about 5 grams of plastic and absorb some of it into our bodies. And it brings toxic chemicals with it. The longer we wait, the more plastic we will be absorbing, because the more very small micro and nanoplastic particles there will be in our water, and the more difficult it will be to clean up.
Okay, so it progressively gets more difficult and difficult to deal with this.
It's progressively getting more and more difficult, and more of a challenge to try and stop and try and do something about this plastic problem. But I think ultimately what we need as well in the plastic problem and in the plastic innovation area is just that we stop making plastic that can't break down in the environment in the first place. Because if we would stop making plastic that can't break down, we wouldn't have the microplastic problem. However, even if we stopped making plastic altogether today, we would still have microplastics for hundreds of thousands of years to come. So that's why my technology is still useful even if we stop making plastic.
You pretty much started answering my next question, because the recurring theme of my interviews on Infoshare is ethics and human factor in technology. So your device won't save the planet by itself.
No.
We have to help it. Certainly.
Everybody needs to be together on saving the planet, and we can't bring it down to just one device, because it's a challenge that is so broad and affects so many people that we need everybody to use their devices, their ideas, their passion, and their energy to solve it.
Yeah, so, change of habits, definitely. Changing the materials that we use, like less and less and less plastic.
Change of policy.
Oh, could you elaborate?
Yeah, sure. Well, what we need to do is for new technology to be adapted. At the moment, it takes really long. So a discovery is made, and then like 10 years later, actually something gets done with it. We need to shorten that time down. We need people that they make that discovery, and like bam, within like 30 seconds, we have a device that actually works and something that's in industry and used in government. That's why we need to make the policy process quicker and more accepting of brand new, perhaps off-the-wall ideas.
Fionn, this question begs to be asked, so let's address the elephant in the room. You are 20,
Yeah.
and you might have very well changed the world already. What's your story?
My story. Well, I guess for me, I've grown up in West Cork in Ireland. So literally in the middle of nowhere. By the sea, outside, being able to explore, walk, talk, be able to kayak and sail every single day. And because of that, I developed a love for the environment and I got really angry when I saw plastic washing up on the shore all the time. That's why I decided, well, the worst that could happen is that I do something about this and it makes a positive difference. That's what I did. I wanted to measure plastic. That's when I started hearing about microplastic, so tiny plastic particles, often less than, like smaller in size than a red blood cell. Like these things are tiny, like you can't even anticipate. And this is stuff we're absorbing, and it's caused by big plastic breaking down into smaller and smaller pieces. These microplastics cause bodily harm. They've been linked to cancer and Alzheimer's. And I thought, well, is this in my water? That's when the next phase came in. I loved inventing too. I loved playing with Lego. And that's why I decided that, like every child,
Yeah.
that's why I decided I wanted to try and make a device to measure the amount of plastic in water. I built a spectrometer that does that. I got pretty horrified because I saw a lot of plastic. And I thought, well, I managed to make this device. What if I could try and remove plastics from water altogether? And okay, I had a lot of devices that failed, caused a lot of power outages in my nearest village, but ultimately I found this method using the magnetic liquids.
Yeah, but did you have any basic understanding of physics and chemistry then?
I was 15. I had high school-ish, not a very
So-
good chemistry teacher, but I had a great earlier science teacher called Miss Quinn, and she told me, and I think this is the most powerful thing, never believe what a science teacher tells you. Instead, try it out yourself.
Okay.
See for yourself, make your own mistakes, rediscover, just like Michael Faraday and those explorers did back in the day. That's what every scientist needs to do to make an invention. And that's what I did. I just tried things out.
So pretty much what you're saying is play with Lego and you might become an inventor.
No. That's not even a might.
Yeah.
Play with Lego, you are an inventor while you're playing with Lego. Everybody here is an inventor.
So since I consider what you did a true invention, like it's a scientifically proven method, it's scientifically sound, what do you think could help foster the real innovation?
Well, I've made a scientific method. It works in a lab. It works on a beaker this big. But how do I change that into something that we can all use? That's pretty difficult. Because as a 15-year-old, you go up to somebody and say, hey, I've made a groundbreaking invention. They say, ha ha ha, go away. You're only 15. So it was really difficult to do that. So I think the best thing we can do is support young inventors with crazy ideas from the bottom up and value their ideas. At least give them some thought, at least give them some energy, and hopefully like that make a better difference. For me, I incorporated my own business, so Fionn & Co.
Yeah,
LLC,
yeah.
and my own not-for-profit in the US as well, where I'm actively seeking grant funding. It's actually really difficult to find grants to be able to do this, to be able to scale this. Luckily, I've had a grant from Robert Downey Jr., which has been one of the major grants in working on this from his Footprint Coalition. But I still need more. And I think that what people can do to support that is try and support young inventors and startups like this.
You only skimmed over it, but you are building something. Could you say a little more, because we discussed this behind scenes, the Glic?
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I am building my device for removal of microplastics from water, which is a continuous flow device. So think of it like water comes in, water comes out. It flows and it works. But while doing that and while scaling this, while applying for a patent, while being a chemist, I realized that I didn't know enough skills to be able to do this from first off. And how are other young inventors who want to invent but don't have the skills necessary to invent able to do that themselves? We need to give them support. And that's why I decided in my startup, the Glic, to try and make a peer-to-peer learning platform to teach young inventors, to give them the skills necessary to invent. Not to tell them what to invent, but instead say, well, you want to test for microplastics? Sure, this is a device you can build in your home. You want to, I don't know, do something in Python? This is what Python is, this is how you can use it. Just introducing them to tools which they can then use for their crazy ideas.
So, apart from the Glic, what is the next chapter of your story? Is there anything else that you're working on?
Oh, I've got lots of things I work on. That's what keeps me busy. One major thing is I've now got a prototype device for the removal of microplastics from water. That's like this big. It works pretty well on the scaling of that. But now, next chapter is getting the funding necessary to make something really big. Something that could be used on a municipality scale to gather up microplastic particles. And that will be sometime in the next year or so. Hopefully I'll have that prototype.
Okay.
But another chapter, something that I'm also really excited about, is a storytelling mission.
Storytelling?
Storytelling mission.
Storytelling machine.
Yeah, we need more people to learn about the issues that are in the environment. And we can only do that through effective storytelling.
Yeah.
And that's why I've been working on creating some television shows for kids, hopefully to inspire them to become inventors.
Interesting, because Yuval Noah Harari writes about this a lot, about the thing that differentiates humans from every other, species is that we create fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And we, money is fiction, states are fiction, ideologies are fiction, corporations are fiction as well that we believe in. And in order to make people do something or persuade them to do something is to create fiction or tell them a story.
Yeah.
So I suppose this is where you're
This is not
coming
fiction.
from.
So this is storytelling about what is happening now.